think most people want freedom, although they'd probably be hard-pressed to tell you exactly what it is they want. So let's talk about freedom. Let's give it a definition. So freedom is freedom from constraint. If you have your hands manacled, then clearly you can't move your arms very well. You're constrained. You don't have freedom of movement. And so it's the same with everything. If you have to go to work 5 days a week, or maybe more, then you don't have freedom to do other things during that time. So the freedom that most people are looking for, I think, is freedom from constraints. Now, there is something that most people don't take into account, and that is that freedom and security sit at opposite ends of a scale. If you want security, you cannot have freedom. So what might security mean? Well, typically it means a steady job, a steady relationship, a steady routine in the evening, a steady everything, a kind of secure. I mean, in reality there is no security, but people crave for security in whatever ways they can. And it's not only physical things. People seek security in their belief and their dogmas. So most people will not venture into these kind of questions because they are secure in their ignorance, in truth. Nothing wrong with that if that's what they want to do. But they can't then talk about, well, I want freedom. Well, you can't have freedom because you've tied yourself up, both in the way you think about life, the way you live your life. You cannot have freedom. So freedom and security sit at opposite ends of a scale. So if you want freedom, you're going to have to ditch all your favorite theories, all your favorite habits, all your favorite, the things that you use to make yourself feel secure in whatever way you do that. So it's a choice. You can go down to the secure end of it, although the secure end of it isn't really a very wise thing to do because, well, there is really no security. You don't know when the Reaper will call or when you'll become ill, or when you might have financial difficulties or whatever. You can't predict those things. So in truth, you're better off looking at the freedom end of the scale. Now, ordinarily people think that freedom is associated with money, power, and there's a certain element of truth in that. If you have to work 7 days a week just to put bread on the table, then you don't have a lot of freedom, physically anyway. You have to go and do those things, and those consume your time. But there's a downside to chasing money and power. Once you have a certain level of income and enough power to run your life as you want, then beyond that, people become obsessed with power. It's very well known that people who build businesses don't run their businesses. Their businesses run them. They are on the schedule that the business sets. They have no freedom. And the same with power. People who are interested in power will find themselves competing with other people who want power, and they will have to devote all their time and energies to fighting off the wolves and taking what opportunities they can when they want. And so it becomes a full-time activity, and so in reality they have even less freedom in the ordinary sense of the word. In any case, to look for freedom in a kind of material level is not all that smart, because you never know what life is going to dish out to you. Anyway, so that's the ordinary kind of quest for freedom. I want more. If I had $10 million in the bank, I'd be free. You wouldn't. You'd be worrying about the money. You'd have a whole pile of people hanging around you. You'd get bored with all the things that you do. You can go on holiday here, which is all very nice, but then when you've done your 7th or 8th holiday, you're kind of getting tired of it. don't feel free. It's well known that billionaires, in fact these are real cases, will hire a famous chef to come in onto their yacht, cook a luxury meal, and they'll look at it and think, oh no, I don't want that, and they'll go and get a McDonald's or something. They're so bored. Boredom isn't freedom. Boredom is a kind of prison. People are desperate to get out of boredom. Anyway, so that's the ordinary level. Then you find people who are on a quest for freedom, in the sense of I want to become free within myself. And that's certainly a better thing than just looking at the world and saying if I had power and money I'd be free. But guess what? Your quest for freedom makes you less free. And so it's just another desire that ties you down. So people might adopt all kinds of things in their quest for freedom that actually make them less free, because they're questing. When you're questing, you are less free. You're busy with the questing. Finally, in my opinion, the only real kind of freedom is when you realize your complete and total bondage, your total slavery. I've already mentioned this in a podcast, but it's very important. Let me give some background to that. So, in the sense of being constrained, are you free? Can you ever be free? No, not at a physical level. Definitely not. You are constrained by gravity for a start. You're constrained by the fact you cannot walk through walls. You are constrained by the fact that your body only lasts a certain amount of time. You are constrained in an almost infinite number of ways. You're constrained by your emotions. If someone insults you, you'll probably feel offended. If someone compliments you, you'll probably feel happy. You're constrained by all of these things. Now, is existence, the universe, nature, God, whatever word you want to use, is that constrained? Well, no, obviously it isn't. What would constrain it? And this is an argument put forward by a number of people, including Spinoza, that God is not good. What would make God good, or what would make the universe good, or nature good? It would then have to be complying with some external constraint. Well, all right, let's include that external constraint in the whole of the universe. Is that constrained? Well, no. Once you've got the all, once you've got existence, the universe, God, nature, as a whole, it is not constrained. There's nothing constraining it. Now, it just so happens that you are a part of this whole of existence. As a tiny part, you are indeed constrained. But if you can come to understand your emotions, your desires, the way you think and what you think, if you can understand those things, then you gain a certain amount of freedom from them. But above everything else, if you can transcend yourself, if you can just see your emotions, your desires, your physical sensations, your thoughts, as just things happening to a very tiny part of the universe, then in a way you transcend yourself. And you can identify with the whole, with the whole of nature, with God, with existence. And that is free. So therein lies your freedom, by transcending yourself. Now obviously this isn't easy. This process of coming to understand ourselves in terms of our desires and emotions and the way we think and so on takes a long time. But, the choice is yours. You either feel like a constrained little thing, that person's insulted me so I feel angry, that's a constraint, or I can't walk through walls, or I haven't got enough money, or whatever it is that you feel constrains you. Or you can transcend all of that, and I should say by transcending doesn't mean that you in any way censor all of that. The stuff still goes on, you still get angry, you still get desires for ice cream or whatever, you still think whatever you think, but you no longer are those things. It's just more phenomena. So, the bottom line in all of this is that the only way to freedom is to transcend ourselves and somehow become identified with the whole of existence, because that is free. There's nothing constraining it. It's not easy. The sages have talked about it for millennia, but it requires a long and difficult practice. But as I say, the choice is yours. Either that or you remain in a prison, in truth. And as Gurdjieff said, the only aim for all of us should be to escape from our prison. If you're interested in the art and science of freedom, then you might find the content on Patreon interesting. There are currently about 300 articles, podcasts, various exercises, and of course feedback. The community is very, very active, and many of the people who've now been there for a number of years have found the content and the experience quite life-changing. So, if you're interested in freedom, then you might want to explore what's on Patreon. The podcasts are much more in depth than I put on YouTube. And of course the exercises and so on I don't put on YouTube because people need feedback. Anyway, if you're interested, go and take a look.